welcome to our FARMacy cooking video. This week we're really getting into fall and we have some beautiful acorn squash or other squash in your bag, and that's what we're going to be baking today. Just some simple baked squash with some maple syrup and brown sugar. For the ingredients, you're going to need brown sugar, some maple syrup, some butter or vegan butter, which is what this is, or oil, a little bit of salt, and of course your squash. And this is an acorn squash. Your squash may not look exactly like this, but this is a very versatile recipe and you can use it on many different kinds of squash. And then you'll just need your cutting board, a knife, and a baking dish. So we are going to be baking the squash, and so the first step is to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So what we're going to do is cut this in half from the bottom to the top, and then we're going to scoop out the inside. So you want to have a heavy, sharp knife. If you have a cleaver, now's the time to use it. So you want to be really careful with this and just drive it. It's better to cut towards the stem end, because if you lay it on its side, it's gonna roll. So once you have it cut out, we're just gonna use a spoon to scoop out the inside. The next step is to cut a little crosshatch onto this so that the butter and the sugar can really get inside. So you can cut about 1/2 inch deep. So first cut one way and then the other. So once we have our squash cut and crosshatched, we are going to rub some butter all over the surfaces and then put in our sugar and maple syrup. So we can put about a 1/2 tablespoon of butter in the center of each squash and just use it to really rub it on and get on the top half as well. Next, we're going to sprinkle about a tablespoon of brown sugar in the middle of each squash. And it's going to melt and kind of form a pool in the middle, and that's okay. And then we'll finish with a quick drizzle of some maple syrup. Then we need a baking dish for our squash. You're going to need either a Pyrex baking dish, or you can use a baking sheet, anything that has a rim on it, because we're going to fill this up with about 1/4 inch of water. Once we have our baking dish with some water, we're going to put the squash cut side up inside the dish. The water's going to make sure that the squash doesn't dry out while it's baking. And this is ready to go in the oven, and you're going to cook this at 400 degrees for about 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes, depending on how big your squash is. And you know it's done when the brown is nice and top, and there's a pool of nice liquid in the middle that you can then spoon over the top when it comes out. So our squash has been baking for about 1 hour now, and it's ready to come out of the oven. Oh, and it smells really good. You can see the top is all nice and caramelized. And that's done.